against Jonathan Winter's Rug deck because he can deal with Lotus Cobra easier, but we're going to find out. And here we are in the semifinals. I'm Gavin Verhey. I'm here with Adrian Sullivan at the Star City Games Open Series here in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're about to watch the semifinals take place between two awesome players. We've seen them play throughout this weekend, and their plays have been pretty tight. Their deck lists are fairly stock, but still a couple interesting things going on. On one end, we've got Jonathan Winters. John Winters is playing Rug. It's very traditional Rug list. Lotus Cobra, Inferno Titan, Precursor Golem, Oracle Moldiah, Avenger of Zendikar, 4 Jace, 1 Garruk, Mana Leak, Lightning Bolt, Explore, Preordain. And he's playing Rug, and it's got a pretty good matchup in this top 8, and it's also got a pretty good matchup in front of you. His opponent, Korey McDuffie, is playing Blue-White Caw-Blade, so he doesn't have the Black Splash, which is a good way to traditionally deal with cards like Lotus Cobra and Explore. You have the discard for Explorers or Cobras, you have Go for the Throats for Cobras, but he doesn't have any of that. He doesn't even have Oust to deal with Lotus Cobra. And we'll see what happens. He's got a 2 Sun Titans and a Baneslayer Angel main deck, both of which are his trumps in the mirror if he gets past this matchup.
Korey opens up the game. He's won the flip or the die roll, and it looks to me like a Colonnade.
Yep, Celestial Colonnade comes down. Something must be going on. Yep, there we go. Copperline Gorge for Jonathan Winters. And here comes Stoneforge Mystic for Korey McDuffie. He's going to go grab a sword and start going to work. John Winters does Lightning Bolt down that Stoneforge Mystic, so the sword isn't going to be coming into play next turn, likely. Now we'll see if Korey's tapped out. He doesn't have Mana Leak, so we'll see if John Winters has the Lotus Cobra to make Korey's life miserable.
I don't know that he does. I think he just looking at his body language, it didn't feel like it, but I guess I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not a poker player, just so you guys know. I've played poker, but that does not make me a poker player.
Sure. I have I have played Mono Red Burn before, but that does not make me a Burn player. Here's Lotus Cobra, and
right now that just changes the entire character of how this match is going to work. If that Cobra doesn't get pushed away in something, I mean, like, what does he do now that's in play?
Nothing is the answer. He has no good answer to a Lotus Cobra in his main deck, or his 75 for that matter, save for Mana Leaking it. And
those Mana Leaks are going to become pretty dead so long as John Winters has any kind of mana.
Yeah, I'm sure Korey said he's like, well, I hope he's mana screwed.
You can do really well at Magic if your opponents are always mana screwed.
Yeah, especially if there's a Lotus Cobra involved. But yeah, it's going to be rough. I can't see what else. Let's see. It looks like John Winters' hand is like Raging Ravine, Mana Leak. Can't quite make out the rest of the cards there. But could be a brutal game for Korey McDuffie. That Lotus Cobra is just an absolute breaker here. So Korey just plays Land Pass. That's an Oracle off the top for John Winters.
What we've seen in the past, going right back to the beginning of the Star City Games live series, is that once a Cobra hits play, the basic problem for people that haven't done much playing with the Lotus Cobra, when you are an opposing blue deck, pretty quickly cards like Spell Pierce and Mana Leak don't actually do anything, and the Lotus Cobra player themselves can not only threat, but they can often double threat. So here, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say there's a Preordain from John Winters. So
yeah, like we have something here. He puts a come into play tap land. That looks like a Raging Ravine he put into play, and he's still able to have Mana Leak mana up.
Right. I mean, the other thing is, I think John Winters has a pretty good idea here that I don't think Korey has Mana Leak. I feel like Korey would have kept Mana Leak open for Lotus Cobra on turn 2 if he had it. He knows that Lotus Cobra is the key of the matchup. He knows he has no other good way to deal with it, and he even told us he thinks that Sword of Feast and Famine isn't that important here. I don't think he would have went for the Stoneforge Mystic if he didn't have an answer to Lotus, or if he had an answer to Lotus Cobra on turn 2 in the form of Mana Leak. So I don't think John has to play around Mana Leak here.
No,
and he drew Oracle of Moldiah this turn, which means that next turn he can get that online, and that card will be absolutely brutal for Korey to deal with.
What do you think about Korey McDuffie has one Condemn? If you're John Winters, do you attack into a deck with 1 Condemn?
I would not attack here, just because you can't. So he does have the Mana Leak. I'm surprised he must have drawn it last turn. I'm pretty sure Korey would have left mana up for it if he had the option to use it the turn before. I don't think you can attack here because the 2 damage isn't going to matter that much going long, and if you get your Cobra condemned, that's the entire game. Or could easily be the entire game.
Yeah,
so I think you just hold it back.
The risk versus reward is just, it doesn't play out.
Yep, and John Winters does just that, passing back. And it's amazing how the one main deck can condemn gives Korey an advantage. You look at it, at the deck, and it's like, well, how often does it really come up? Well, in this top 8, Korey doesn't even have to have drawn it for it to matter.
I mean, usually back in the day, when people wouldn't necessarily have access to each other's deck lists, one of the things you might see is somebody accidentally flashing their condemn that they have in their deck so that they let their opponent know, I've got condemn, and there's only the 1 copy.
Right.
You know.
Looks Korey casts Preordain. It looks like his hand is Baneslayer Angel, sort of Feast and Famine, lands and Jace. And John Winters is deciding if he wants to let this Preordain resolve. And he does. Looks like Temple Magnet. I think Temple Magnet Stoneforge Mystic on the top of Korey's library.
Korey's trying to fashion some way out of this mess.
Yeah, and I mean, Baneslayer Angel is a good route to do that. Especially if you put a Sword of Feast and Famine on it. The question is, does Korey have the time before Lotus Cobra's mana advantage starts taking over the game? Now, granted, he could also try and find Day of Judgment, which for 4 mana could deal with Lotus Cobra and any other threats John Winters plays out. But right now, Winters' hand looks pretty stocked up. I think he's got Mana Leak and he has Oracle Moldiah in his hand, which means on his next turn he can play Oracle. He can play down Scalding Tarn in his hand, cast Oracle Moldiah, and leak mana untapped. Of course, he just uses leak there, but he can still represent leak next turn. So he leaks the Mystic and draws an island.
Now we can expect that this is going to be, you know, the fetch land here, just to make sure that the extra mana is open. Oh, really? Just he's going to go a little bit. Lay right into... Oh, he's still going to have the extra mana open by laying that, and then having the... If he does not get a fetch land on top of his library, laying the fetch land afterwards.
Right. So now he can play out the fetch land and represent Mana Leak. And there's an Inferno Titan on top of John Winters' library. Now he feels safe attacking with Lotus Cobra, because it's like, well, if he has the Condemn, I still, I'm going to have access to 6 mana next turn, so I don't need the Cobra quite as much anymore. Still nice to have to play around Mana Leak, but if you can deal with my Cobra with the Condemn, you'd rather have that than on an Inferno Titan. So now we're going to see Scalding Tarn by John Winters, I feel. Nope, we just Upsword Island. It passes. I mean, I can see the hesitation to play Scalding Tarn just because you don't want to shuffle away that Inferno Titan, and Korey knows you're not going to shuffle away that Inferno Titan.
I guess one of the things I don't like about this play by John Winters is he's saying, I don't have the Mana Leak, or I don't have at least access to it right now.
Or I just don't have a fetch land to play.
That's still the same saying as I don't have access to it right now.
Right. But it doesn't necessarily tell Korey what's in his hand, which is important for John.
He was shuffling between the 2 cards and then laid an island.
Right.
So that says to me he's choosing between two lands to play. Draws, reveals Explore.
Okay. There's Baneslayer Angel, and now we're going to see Inferno Titan come down.
In the background on the far left, you can see Sol Malka, arms crossed, waiting and watching.
Alright.
Baneslayer can do a lot of work.
Baneslayer is very good here, but 5/5 is no 6/6, but it is if Sword of Feast and Famine hits it. And Korey has the sword in his hand. He can ship it onto the Baneslayer Angel and make it a 7/7, and that'll make it so Inferno Titan can't really afford to attack. And I think if you're John Winters, you have to lay the Inferno Titan here.
Yeah, I mean, you would be worried about a Day of Judgment, but once there's a Baneslayer in play, you're pretty excited to get a Baneslayer off the table.
Yeah, I mean, with what's in his hand, he has no other avenue than to play the Inferno Titan, because otherwise he's going to just fall behind to that Baneslayer Angel.
Now, this is one of the powers of running these over-the-top cards in your Cobb Blade lists, is that when you have a deck where you're dealing with cards like Inferno Titan, a Baneslayer Angel can really change what the play that the opponent needs to make in ways that other cards might not be able to. A Sun Titan would do the same thing, just change what would be possible in terms of what you can do to interact with your opponent. The downside, of course, is this raises your curve a lot.
Right, but here we have turn 5 Baneslayer Angel, good in the mirror match, but also no slouch against this Rug deck. The 5/5 Angel still spreading her wings and showing off against the metagame, and in this matchup seems really brutal. Titans are good at going over the top of Angel, but once again, if Korey just equips that sword, that's going to be pretty hard for Jonathan Winters. Can attack into it, and then he even has the potential to just serve for 7, untap all of his lands, gain 7 life.
I mean, essentially, with a 7/7 first striking, flying, life linking, pro dragon, pro demon, right? Like, you're talking about a card that can hold off the ground until a tumble magnet comes to the party, and then that tumble magnet would be able to hold off the Inferno Titan. However, that Oracle does represent a real threat in terms of just the card advantage that it can provide. And there's another land.
There's a Scalding Tarn. And flips Lotus Cobra on the top of his library. And John Winters seems pretty excited to have that Scalding Tarn. He slammed his library hoping to find it. And so he got a mana off that. Let's see what he's going to do here.
Looks like he's thinking about Raging Ravine.
There's no way that could be correct.
He's pulling it back.
Yeah. If you attack with both Raging Ravines here, Baneslayer Angel just eats one, and Korey ends up alive. So, I mean, I don't think you have a play besides playing Inferno Titan. He's thinking about it. He doesn't want to just throw the game away accidentally, but... Let's see. 1, 2, 3. That'll make 4 mana. 4, 5, 6 mana. And yeah, there we go. Inferno Titan, 3 damage to you.
Now this empties out John Winters' hand, but it also means that by not holding that back, he's not going to have Sword of Feast and Famine just empty it out in a really terrible way for him.
Right, yeah. I mean, they could have been really brutal for John Winters if he had held that Inferno Titan back, but I mean, he realized he had to play it, and he did. I mean, Korey had no counter magic mana untapped.
Now, with an empty hand, this does mean that a sequence of plays exists for Sword of Feast and Famine to go into that Baneslayer Angel, and then on the subsequent turn, Jace bounce the Inferno Titan, and then strip it away.
Yep, and Korey seems like he's actually kind of in an okay position here. That his hand looks pretty stocked. He's going to be able to make that Baneslayer Angel into a 7/7, meaning John Winters can't attack. John Winters has no cards in his hand. I think, and we know his next draw is Lotus Cobra. I think he has to draw pretty well to have an advantage here. Now, granted, if John Winters, say, draws another Inferno Titan, draws an Avenger of Zendikar, maybe that switches things up, but even a second Inferno Titan doesn't do that much. We'll see what goes on, see what Korey chooses to do. Do you think he's serving for 7 here? Probably not, right?
I don't
probably
think
just want
so.
to play Jace.
I think he's gonna hold back.
Yep, I agree. I think that I think you just hold back, fend off that Inferno Titan.
I mean, if he swings for the 7, and lays the Jace, for example, the Jace is gonna die. You know, no matter what else happens.
Right. Yeah, I think you just have to go sword equip and then pass the turn.
I mean, even if, like, with that 7 life gain, the amount of damage is just going to be so big. Wow. That's
so
actually really
goes
surprising.
For Jace. Interesting.
He bounces the Titan.
Weird. So he
attacks for 5. Does that bring it, says John Winters.
So now John's has the option to go replay the Titan, kill Jace. If you kill Jace... I feel like Korey McDuffie is still in a really good position, but I don't know if it's as good as it would have been if he had simply knocked off that Inferno Titan. I don't know if he thinks that Winters is going to play around Mana Leak here.
I mean, that play to me, even though I think he's got a sandbag Jace in his hand, yeah?
Yeah, I think he has another one.
I think that play to me says that he feels like he's in worse shape than I think he is. I think he was in pretty good shape.
I think he's in pretty good shape. Plus, let's see, John Winters can activate both the Raging Ravines, so that's 8. If he draws properly, so that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. you can serve Korey down to 8. You'd be able to go up to 13 on the backswing. Kills off a Jace, maybe. I don't know. I don't like that attack.
I don't like that either. John, shuffling up his library, using his Scalding Turn to find a mountain, just wanting to get something more potent than a Lotus Cobra in his hand.
Yeah. Now, there's always the risk he's going to flip over a land and draw that without Oracle being able to put it into play, but you'd rather try and dig closer to, say, Avenger of Zendikar, which would totally break this game open. I'm sure he's also trying to figure out right now if Korey has a Mana Leak in his hand, because he clearly left that untapped, and there's the land.
So he's going to draw that land.
Yep. Forced to draw the Misty Rainforest.
Reveals and Explore. He can get rid of that with the Misty Rainforest, which would be totally fine.
Right. And now he has to choose, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
9,
6.
10. He can have 12 mana. Is that right? 7 plus 1 plus 2? Yeah. So it's 10 mana, pardon me. He's enough to put that Inferno Titan into play.
Or he could activate both Raging Ravines on attack if he wanted to. But he chooses not to. Instead, he's just going to kill Jace with his small creatures and hit in for 2. I would have sent both on Jace there just so I didn't have to worry about Condemn, but I think either way he's probably safe. He's probably realized by now Korey doesn't have the Condemn. And now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 mana floating, Inferno Titan.
Yeah, I don't know that I like that sequence of plays there. Saying go even, I would have definitely cracked that way before combat. Just made sure that maybe I could get a little bit more land out, and then besides that, what if a Condemn hits there? You know.
All right.
Like,
I mean, I think it feels like Korey doesn't have it, but he could have drawn it at some point. It's possible. The Inferno Titan without cracking the Misty Rainforest. I mean, maybe he doesn't want the Korey to see what's on top of his library, because it is very relevant to know if he's going to have access to another Titan or something next turn.
That's true.
But it also hurts him because he can't put another land into play.
And to be fair, actually, Explorer is really valuable for him once he's got Oracle going. Because if there's some card that's actually a good spell on top of his library, he can go and get it.
Yeah, and there's sort of Feast and Famine going to serve.
Look at this. Knocks Jonathan Winters down to 1 swing to die.
Yeah. The other thing Misty Rainforest does is makes it easier for him to activate both Raging Ravines next turn. He can draw any basic lands, or have any basic land on top of his library, rather, and he can activate both Ravines, which would be able to swing for a sizable amount of damage. So now Korey gains 7, John Winters drops down to 5, and now I think we're going to see that second Jace come into the battlefield and probably bounce that Inferno Titan again. I think Korey knows that he's in pretty good shape with his Baneslayer Angel, and he just has to ride it to victory. So let's see, I think we're going to see a -1. Pretty sure we're going to see a -1. Bouncing that Inferno Titan. Yep, bounces the Inferno Titan. And let's see, so flips over Misty Rainforest, which he can play off the Oracle.
So what John Winters needs to have happen here is he needs to attack the Jace and then draw into a Jace, and then bounce that Baneslayer.
Let's see, so his hand is Explore, Inferno Titan. What do you think your players play here is if you're John Winters, you just crack that Misty Rainforest to shuffle away the top card of your library, try and find something better to explore into?
I don't think that the Explore on top is any different than cracking that Rainforest, looking for something better, and exploring again. I think you're just killing the amount of mana that you have available to you. This, however, I guess it does get you to look at another card yet. Preordain.
That's a good one to see.
That's a pretty good one.
Now John Winters can play 3 lands this turn. So he'll be able to make a ton of mana. The question is it even going to matter? Plus, Korey McDuffie has that Tectonic Edge on his side, which he can use to gun down a Raging Ravine if John Winters chose to send it into the red zone.
Yeah, well, the only winning play that John Winters has available to him is getting a Jace of his own into play.
Right, so he can bounce the Baneslayer Angel. And then what would happen is John Winters would send both creatures that Jace, and then play down his own Jace, bounce the Baneslayer.
And even then, that play still doesn't win if Korey McDuffie top decks a land, because then Korey can activate the Colonnade, equip it, and win.
Yeah, I mean, John is running low on outs, but he's trying to find what he can. Cursor Golem, not going to be good enough.
Yeah, you're going to want to crack... No, don't do that. You want to crack that Misty Rainforest.
The thing is, you're straight into the Colonnade if you crack the Misty Rainforest.
Ah, that's true. That's true.
And I'm sure he doesn't want to...
Both to the bottom.
Remove his outs even further. There's an Inferno Titan, which he draws. There's Copperland Gorge. Going to play the Gorge.
He's going to need to draw lots of land now. Like, enough to double... No, even double Inferno Titan doesn't do it. Yeah, there's nothing. There's no outs for him now. He's done.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything, John. I mean, Korey McDuffie knows the 2 cards in John Winter's hand, and I think he knows that that the game's over. He just made that motion with his hands. Yep, and that's it. John Winters takes down or Korey McDuffie rather takes down the first game of the semifinals.
Singleton Baneslayer Angel getting there for him.
Yep, and Baneslayer Angel with Sword and Feast and Famine trumps Inferno Titan. Normally the Titans are what beat Baneslayer Angel 6-6 versus 5-5, like much better at fighting. But when you throw a sword on her, it does a good enough job. Looking at these players' sideboards, I talked to Korey McDuffie a little earlier today, and before the top 8 started, before the semifinals started, and he told me that he felt like Sword was actually a weak link in this matchup. John Winters doesn't have any way to kill artifacts, so he can pretty safely leave in only one sword, taking one out, and be able to have Sword when he needs it. But more importantly, he said he didn't feel like Sword was that important. In the meantime, we're about to give away 6 months of Star City Games Premium here. Awesome stuff. You're going to want to get ready for this contest. So how you play is go to twitter.com, log into your account, and put in the hashtag SCG Premium. Hashtag # SCG Premium. And we're going to ask a trivia question, and if you answer correctly, we'll put you into the running of people who answer correctly, and the winner will win 6 months of free premium.
That's a lot of free premium.
That is a lot of free premium. That is a premium amount of free premium. That is so much premium. So here's the question for you. Yesterday, in the quarterfinals, we watched 2 players play. One of them was Charles Gindy, playing Esper Blade. What was his opponent playing? What deck was his opponent playing? Tweet at us the answer, and make sure to include the hashtag SCG Premium, and you could win 6 months of premium. So once again, the question is, what deck did Charles Gindy's quarterfinals opponent play? Let us know on Twitter.
Now, make sure that you look to, if you're not sure, the Star City Games Open Series coverage that is available on the web, and that'll help you out with this one.
Yeah, you can just go to starcitygames.com, click on the coverage, and you'll be able to see all the matchups, all the deck lists. So I think it should give you a pretty big edge in finding out the answer to this question. Hopefully, if you're responding on Twitter, you have an internet connection. So
the inimitable Rashad Miller will be the one that will designate our winner amongst the correct answers.
Yeah. And we'll tweet the question here for you guys. Did you already tweet it, Adrian? Okay, I'll tweet it real fast. So, so we know that Korey McDuffie is going to take out some stuff. What do you think he's going to bring in? So he said he's going to take out a couple of Mystics, going to take out a Sword. What do you think he brings out of his board?
Yeah, well, I think the clear thing he's going to bring in is some Flash Freezes. Flash Freeze is very valuable in stopping so many of the weapons that could be coming out of his opponent here. John Winters has Inferno Titans, he has Oracle of Moldai, he has Avenger of Zendikar, and he has Garruk as potential threats. And then from the sideboard, there is always the possibility that Winters might just try to make the board really, really big with cards like Obstinate Baloth. Now, I don't think Winters is going to go towards Obstinate Baloth, but it's always a possibility. And Flash Freeze can take care of all of the major threats that are not Precursor Golem. Now, in addition, though, Jace Beleren, because this is a Jace fight, is a very valuable card that can be brought in for this game, and Condemn, another one that is going to be of value. I mean, Condemn against an Inferno Titan, great answer. Condemn against a Precursor Golem, great answer. I mean, you brought up the access to Divine Offering. I think he's just going to go with Condemn.
Let's see here. Yep, so Korey's going to bring in more Condemns for sure. And yeah, I don't think he's going to bring in Offering. I think killing Precursor Golem just isn't worthwhile enough.
Yeah, I mean, Condemn does the same work, even if it does give his opponent the life.
Yeah, I mean, Flash Freeze is going to come in for sure. Maybe Spreading Seas. We could see that happen potentially, depending on how many cards Korey McDuffie thinks he can take out. On the flip side, on John Winter's side of the board,
John Winters has access to Deprive, which I think is going to be of real value.
Yes, definitely.
And then Frost Titan. Now, Frost Titan is just a really great weapon against a single major threat. So he knows his opponent has Sun Titans, and in a Titan war, Frost Titan is king.
And plus, I think we're also going to see maybe the one Burst Lightning come in. I think even though Korey's taking out some Mystics, John Winters doesn't know that, and you want to be able to shoot down that Mystic when it comes down. But even then, not a lot of cards on the board for John Winters. He's got Burst Lightning, a Frost Titan, and a Deprive. Do you think you board those Tumble Magnets here?
You know, Tumble Magnet is traditionally exactly for Squadron Hawks that have a Sword of Feast and Famine in their hands.
Right.
At the same time, you know, I feel like it's possible that will be something that comes in, but there's just so many cards you don't want to take out. I mean, perhaps what you might want to do, perhaps you might just end up leaning a little bit on your Tumble Magnets and your Pyroclasms, because he does have access to Pyroclasms, and maybe those bolts come out. But like the thing about the bolt can instantly take care of a suddenly sort of Feast and Famine creature, whereas a Pyroclasm might be able to take out several Hawks at once, but it only does it after the sort of Feast and Famine has had the opportunity to go on.
Right. And by the time they're hawking, if you don't really want to have a totally reactive card like Pyroclasm. So yeah, I don't think we'll see those Pyroclasms come in.
I mean, I don't think he wants to change the makeup of his deck very much,
No,
honestly.
I agree.
I mean, his deck, the power of his deck is Lotus Cobra, Explorer, plus scary cards, and then Preordain plus Mana Leak plus Jace. So that means that he does not have very many cards to take out. Lightning Bolt is a card that he could take out. Potentially Garruk Wildspeaker might come out.
I think Garruk is pretty good in this
I
matchup.
mean, I'm just trying to look at cards.
Yeah.
Garruk is good, but Garruk is not integral to what the matchup needs to be, right? How many cards does he want to bring in? Probably Deprive, Frost Titan, Tumble Magnets. So maybe he brings in Frost Titan, Deprive, Tumble Magnets, and takes out the 4 bolts.
I could see that. I mean, traditionally it feels like you want the bolts to kill Stoneforge Mystic, but maybe if he has the read on Korey taking out a Stoneforge Mystics, or some number of Stoneforge Mystics, then he's not going to need those bolts quite as much. Yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot in this deck you want to board out in this matchup. You want Leak, you want Explore, you want Preordain, you still want Bolt. Jace, you want Garruk, Avenger, Oracle, Precursor Golem, Inferno Titan, Lotus Cobra. Those are all cards that are awesome.
I know, like this deck is already set up for this matchup.
Maybe you could shave one Inferno Titan if you really wanted to, but I mean, maybe he wants to stay at 4 Titans, so maybe that's one cut you could make. But I mean, even then, I don't know. I'm not convinced that's what he's going to do. I'd be interested to see how he's going to sideboard here. So we'll see what he chooses to do. Looks like the players are taking their opening hands. They're going to be off to the races. Let's see. Both players peeking up from a group of 7 cards, and they're keeping. So John Winters, turn 1 Preordain. No doubt searching for a, I think Lotus Cobra is probably what's on tap here. So he leaves Frost Titan and Misty Rainforest on top. So he did board that Frost Titan in.
Yeah, the Frost Titan strikes me as just a auto include in this matchup.
Yep. I mean, I think it has to come in. The question is, what do you take out for it? Korey McDuffie has a Preordain of his own, finding Squadron Hawk and I believe a land. Let's see, and there's Gideon. Flash Freeze. Ignore that. That's actually not true. Let's see. Looks like John Winter's hand is Mana Leak, Deprive, and Lotus Cobra and Frost Titan. So he has the Cobra he needs.
Sure that was a Cobra? I thought that might be Explorer.
It looked like Cobra to me.
Okay. It was flashing by pretty quick.
I mean, it was definitely green. It's definitely one of the two. I'm pretty sure it's Lotus Cobra.
There it is,
yeah,
Cobra.
it's
Okay.
Cobra.
Does he have a green source?
Yeah.
Now he does.
He has the Misty Rainforest. Left it right on top. And there's the Cobra. Once again, the breaking card that John Winters wants to have in his opening hand. He wants to have access to that Cobra. And it's going to make all the difference here. Korey McDuffie, without Oust in his sideboard, he has no good way to deal with it.
last game, he did get that Cobra, and the Cobra did not give him enough dividends.
Yep. I don't feel like Cobra was ready for a sorted Baneslayer Angel, which, speaking of, Korey McDuffie has the Baneslayer sitting in his hand, waiting in the wings. But in the meantime, the wings will be taken up by Squadron Hawk, as Hawk searches up another copy. Korey counting his hand, making sure he doesn't have to discard. One of the most embarrassing things that I think you can do is play Hawk, get all 3 Hawks, discard 2 cards. So he's making sure that doesn't happen here.
I see Gideon, I see a Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, I see a Flash Freeze also.
You can't see, but I see Rashad. That's always good.
Wait, what?
Oh, I can see Rashad as well. They can't see Rashad at home, but I can.
That is true.
That's one of the things that I do think that you miss out about not coming to the Star City Games Open Series events live in person.
Yeah, is being able to see Rashad. Not everybody gets such an honor.
What do we have on the table now?
So we've got Lotus Cobra. John Winters fondles his Lotus Cobra, but realizes he doesn't really want to serve that in right into Squadron Hawk. So
right now, access to lots of mana there. He could have 5, but says go.
Yep, passes back to Korey McDuffie. And now Korey has to figure out what the play is. So his opponent has Lotus Cobra. He's got mana untapped, potentially access to Mana Leak. Does he want to leave up Flash Freeze? Does he want to play another 2-drop here?
I mean, access to 6, if not, you know, what? 1, 2, 3, 7 mana next turn is a scary prospect. So if he taps down and then out comes a Titan.
Yeah, and I don't know if playing any of those threats is going to be good enough here to outweigh keeping Flash Freeze up. And yeah, I think Korey's probably just going to leave Flash Freeze up here and pass the turn. And once again, you just see how that Lotus Cobra is just outpacing Korey McDuffie. I mean, Korey has a pretty strong hand, but it's not going to be able to deal with 7 mana on turn 4.
Just a couple minutes remaining to sign up for today's draft. First draft open. If you're interested in drafting today, come on up to the main event stage. Once again, we have only a couple of minutes.
Here's the announcement for the draft open happening in the background.
Now, when you think about the potential access to 7 mana here, or even if there isn't a fetch land brought into play, the access to 6 mana, that means that John Winters, if he were to have a Jace, could lay a Jace and have Mana Leak backup. That's actually really just incredible in a matchup like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just get to keep your counter magic available. You can pay for their opponent's mana leaks easier, and it's all around just the mana advantage is what matters. In control matchups, control mirrors, typically it's all about mana advantage. Now, granted, Rug isn't really a control mirror. We were talking about this last night, and I feel it's more of a mid-rangey control deck. But still, having the mana advantage is what's key in the matchup.
Absolutely. And laying that island gives John Winters access to 6 mana. He passes.
Yep, just passes Korey McDuffie, making sure to represent Mana Leak. The interesting thing is that in John Winters' hand right now is Frost Titan, and if he was to cast a Frost Titan, Korey did not have a way to deal with it because his counter is Flash Freeze. But
Korey finds a Mana Leak with his Preordain. Now, the interesting thing here, Mana Leak does work, but it quickly will not do work. And it only does work against the top end of John Winters' deck. So will he even keep that Mana Leak? Looks like he puts both of them on top.
He's thinking about what he's going to do. Surveying the board, trying to figure out, well, if I take this Mana Leak, is it going to become dead quickly? Like, what's... Alright, so he leaves them both, and he's going to take that Mana Leak. He's content to just hold on to as many counterspells as he can, hoping to gain an advantage against Jonathan Winters' Titans.
Raging Ravine drawn by John Winters.
And now John is like, alright, do I pull the trigger? Do I not? Is Korey bluffing me? I mean, he knows he can't take all the time in the world, because the advantage of Lotus Cobra is that you get to accelerate out quickly, but if, you know, they just play draw-go for several turns staring at each other, then Korey's going to be able to take the advantage.
For the 9 a.m. draft open. Final call for the 9 a.m.
Alright, and there's a Raging Ravine, and John Winters passes back yet again. So
I kind of wonder that if John Winters isn't maybe being overly cautious.
I mean, the problem is he only has one threat. He just has that Frost Titan.
He does have a mana leak, though.
Right. He also has Deprive. I feel like let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think he's probably waiting to have access to
8 mana, to 11 mana. Where does he want to get to?
I think he wants to get to 8 so he can play Frost Titan with Deprive available. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, he only had 7 on his last turn.
Okay, so next turn he'll be able to go there.
Yeah, next turn he can go Titan with Deprive up, and then Korey McDuffie has to have 2 counter spells to deal with it. Plus, he knows that Flash Freeze isn't an option for his Frost Titan. He only has the Frost Titan. Sometimes if you have a Titan heavy draw, you can just jam those Titans out there, be like Titan, 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 and if they mana leak 2 of them and the third one resolves, you're okay with that.
2, 3, 4, 5. No, he had access to 8 if he wanted. He has a fetch land in his hand.
He does have a fetch land?
Yeah,
I just thought he had a mountain.
I missaw that. If he has a fetch land in his hand, then he had access
Yeah,
to 8.
if he had a fetch land, he definitely had 8.
There.
No, that's a mountain. Oh,
Right
is that a Scalding
That's
Tarn?
a Scalding Tarn. I'm not sure what he's waiting for.
Interesting. Yeah, once again, I feel like if he just keeps passing back and forth, then Korey's going to have the advantage. He's going to be able to play the long game better, and the Lotus Cobra's mana boost is just not as relevant in the late game. Yeah, I didn't think he had that Scalding Tarn. I figured it must have been something else, but he was holding on to it.
He's just being overly cautious here.
And Korey only had enough mana available to counter one thing, so I'm surprised we did not see Frost Titan come out. He knows Korey can't respond with any kind of removal effect. Granted, he has Day of Judgment, which would wipe his board. It's pretty removal effecty, but I mean, no pinpoint removal. And if Korey doesn't have the counter for it, then he gets to keep up Deprive on his opponent's turn. I think John had to go for it there, but we'll see.
I agree.
We'll see what his plan is. I'm sure in his head he's got it figured out.
I mean, now it strikes me that his play has to be suddenly Frost Titan down the Hawk.
Yeah, I mean, now I think his play is, I think he's probably trying to play to get up to 10 mana so he can play Frost Titan and have Mana Leak and Deprive available.
That's a lot of
But that seems like so much work and so much time. And that's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 2 more turns.
Yeah, I think right now, because of that Mystic, he has to actually tap down that Hawk. And the reason he would tap down, God. No, maybe just tap down the Mystic then. I mean, I keep on forgetting right now that, no, the Hawk. If he taps down the Hawk, then the Mystic can't get through on the attack. If he casts the Feast and Famine, he can't get through the Frost Titan.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll see if John Winters decides to go for it here. But I bet in his head he probably feels like he's pot committed to holding up 10 mana.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I didn't play it last turn, I didn't play it the turn before. Right now I'm playing to hit 10. But we'll see what he chooses to do.
There it is. The possibility to get up there.
There's a fetch land, so he can get up to 9 this turn.
I think he's going for it
he
now.
opts to crack it, but it still feels like it's a turn too late, but maybe he knows what he's doing. I would guess being in the semifinals, he's got a pretty good idea of how to play his own deck, so we're going to see Frost Titan come down here, and we know Korey isn't going to be able to counter it. He can go for Mana Leak, but I don't think that's going to be able to do it with the Deprive and Mana Leak in Jonathan Winter's hand. Plus, I think he's just access to 9 mana.
Yeah, he has access to 9.
Yeah.
And that means that the Mana Leak won't get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible with John Winters waiting to be able to pay for Mana Leak.
That could be too.
I would have been... I like being aggressive with it usually when I'm in the rugged player's position, because Korey is... It's the who's the beatdown traditional thing, right? Like, Korey is the true control deck. John has to be the aggro deck here, so I would be more aggressive. But I can respect waiting that you can pay for the Mana Leak. I mean, it makes sense to want to do that. So, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. He has 2 mana floating currently from the fetch land.
Here comes Frosty.
Yep, here comes Frost Titan. And now Mana Leak won't be able to stop it.
When M11 first came out, I incorrectly, I think, thought of Frost Titan as just strictly the weakest of the Titans. Brian Cole actually thought that it was the second strongest.
All right, so we do see Korey play that Mana Leak just to tap John Winters out of mana, which I'm sure he's going to pay. Yeah, and it was interesting. Frost Titan was ballyhooed for a while, And it really turned out to be a total threat. Locking down something every turn with a 6/6 body is huge. Plus, it's harder to kill than normal because of its ice, kind of like ice effect.
I think part of the reason it took a while to take off was that Sphinx of Jar Isle, in the world where that was available in that metagame, the untargetable, completely untargetable, was just of value initially, that first little bit. And Sphinx is still a legal card, but the metagame has changed as the rotation out of the previous sets.
Yeah, I mean, especially when, like, for example, Jund went away.
Yeah, Sphinx was like just a lights out against Jund, whereas Frost Titan is a 4-mana to kill card.
Right. It's still harder to kill, but not as impenetrable. But with the way the format's moved, I mean, Frost Titan became good immediately in Destructive Force decks, and now we still see it in these Rug decks. Granted, it's still just a one-of, but it's still very powerful, as you'll see here. And yeah, tap down that Squadron Hawk. It's going to be able to tap down something every single turn, and swinging for 6 to boot. John passes back to Korey.
Now, what's the best play for Korey if you were to draw the best card off the top of his deck?
I mean, I think he's got that. Oh, well, I think that's probably it. Probably it.
There it is.
I was about to say, Day of Judgment has got to be it, right? And there it was indeed. And he can even, let's see. Oh, yes, he spent his mana leak, but he still has that flash freeze. So yeah, he can go Day, leaving up mana leak. So he's gonna. Oh, I think he just forgot that Frost Titan is blue.
That is a blue man there.
Korey with it's definitely a misstep.
And now we've got Deprived to stop the Day of Judgment, and he is well out of mana leak range from Korey McDuffie too.
Yeah, I feel like Korey had his opportunity there. You go Day of Judgment, follow that up with a Flasher's mana untapped, but yeah, it turns out Frost Titan is blue, a good color to be, especially with no sort of body in mind running around. And Korey McDuffie definitely probably feeling bad about that one, but I'm sure in his head he's trying to figure out how to pedal back into the game.
And I feel like there was a look in his face like he saw it, right? Like he's like, oh no,
Yeah.
But what's done is done.
Yeah, what's done is done, and now that sword is there, and Korey's going to figure out how to make best use of it. Now, the thing is, if John Winters attacks, that sword can still connect. He can ship it over to the Hawk, and it's still going to be devastating. It's possible that Korey was actually trying to trap his opponent here somehow, and making John think it was a misplay, but I just can't see that being the case. All right, so John activates his Raging Ravine, and Korey attacks with these, tapping down Mystic with the Frost Titan, serving in for 12.
Yeah. Now, what this means then for Korey, the clock that he is suddenly on with a Raging Ravine already pumped up is just immense. Even attacking with the Squadron Hawk with the sort of Feast and Famine on it, he has to do a lot of work to be able to be in this game.
Yeah, I mean, he can. Let's see. See what he does.
On your table will be a slip of
Tectonic Edge there to answer the Raging Ravine.
Right. I mean, he's got Gideon. Yeah, Korey's quickly backpedaling to try and find his out here. I mean, he could drop a Gideon, force everybody to attack him, but that really just fogs for a turn. He can ship that sword over to the Squadron Hawk, attacking for 3, and get 2 uses. So we can play Gideon, attack for 3, untap all my lands, play some more Squadron Hawks. I don't know, I'm sure he's also concerned about relying too much on that Hawk if John Winters has access to a burn spell. He hasn't seen one yet this game. We don't know if John boarded them out or not. But let's see what he does.
Those seats will be used for the draft open. Move to the clear tables towards the
Let's see. Alright, looks like Korey is going to equip here. See him tapping 2. Well, he's tapping a Weiss. Maybe that means Squadron Hawk's going to come down. Korey being very careful. He's already messed up once. He doesn't want to mess up again.
Yeah. Lightning bolts, for example, hitting that Squadron Hawk would end up really cutting short the mana that he has available.
Yeah, certainly. It would. I mean, it would expend a bolt from Winters when Korey's at 8, but it would take away a number of Korey's options. So yeah, he goes back to the double island to make sure he's got white available. And now he has to think. If he casts Gideon and his opponent has Lightning Bolt for the Hawk, that means that basically it just gets the fog with the Gideon and then doesn't have anything going next turn. But I think he just has to go for it. I think the play here is probably you go Gideon, attack, and then hold up, and then maybe try and Day of Judgment. Well, he just chooses to serve in. It's a difficult play right now, so I'll trust Korey on this one.
And Winters can really afford just to take this hit.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really, I don't think he has anything to do about it in the first place.
Even if he.
Yep, and he just takes it.
Like that. What I'm saying by that is it doesn't actually hurt him too badly losing that one land right now in this moment in the game.
Oh yeah. No, the discarding card isn't that huge. Obviously, I think if he had the Bolt, you would definitely expend it there just to deal with the Hawk. You could crack the fetch land to get a red mana off Lotus Cobra, but all right. So let's see. So now Korey tapping 4 is just going to go for the day with Mana Leak available, paying for Mana Leak available rather. But without a Mana Leak of his own,
oh wow,
it's going to work. And for a second, it looked like Korey was going to snap down a counterspell of his own. But okay, so John Winters plays Mana Leak, taps Korey McDuffie out, and then has the Deprive
to wrap it up.
Yeah. So he made sure Korey had to tap his 3 down, so he couldn't Mana Leak him back, and now he doesn't have Flash Freeze mana up. And I think that's game, right?
Yep. And Korey sees it.
Yep, that's game. And going into game 3.
And we just have the results from the other matchup. Edgar Flores defeats Charles Gindy in 3 games. Charles stuck on 2 land for a grid portion of game 3. And if you go to our Twitter feed, you can see Megan Holland posted a picture of Charles Gindy's frustrated expression being stuck on 2 land. And it's quite a picture.
Yeah, and so that once again proves, or not proves, but just shows again how the straight blue-white version of the deck is just seems to keep beating the blue-black-white version. Like, the Esper Blade's mana base is just so fragile compared to Tectonic Edge. From the blue-white version, it's got better mana, it's got Tectonic Edge to deal with the tricolor threats and tricolor mana base that the triple color mana base can provide. I mean, it deals with Creeping Tar Pit, which is a major threat, shuts them off of mana. It's rough. Yeah, so Edgar advances to the finals, where he's going to take on the winner of this match. And who do you like in the third game here? Korey's going to be on the play.
I think this gives Korey, a much better chance. We talked yesterday a lot about the question of going first, going second, and obviously it really depends on which decks you're talking about, how much of an edge there is. But again, we have another matchup where, in this case, it's that Lotus Cobra. The existence of Lotus Cobra being able to get in under Mana Leak, get in under Flash Freeze, really pushes things in John Winters' favor when he gets to go first. Korey going first this last game, I still think Winters has an advantage here, but the advantage is diminished, certainly, to, I think, to a small sliver. I give this matchup right now about, in game 3, about a 55% to John Winters. Maybe as high as just under 60, which is not to say very high.
Yeah, it's certainly close. Being on the play gives him access to a Mana Leak and Flash Freeze to deal with that Lotus Cobra. But we'll see what kind of hands the players have. John Winters has had Lotus Cobra in both games. We'll see if he has it here in the third, too. Let's see. Who do you think... let's see. Do you think either of them want to go back to their boards for the third game? Or I think they know each other's lists, right? So they're probably pretty set.
I think that there's nothing really that either of them saw that would have been a surprise. They've seen each other's lists, and so John Winters playing a Frost Titan, I mean, it's probably frustrating for Korey that John had access to his Singleton Frost Titan, but regardless of that, he knows it's in there. It's not going to change anything in any way now that he saw it. I don't expect anything is going to actively change.
Yeah, I don't expect anything's going to change either. That Frost Titan is so brutal. The one Frost Titan out of the sideboard for John Winters made all the difference. Korey was playing around Inferno Titan. He had all the right cards to deal with Inferno Titan, but Frost Titan, that was not something he was really ready for.
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting that both of these first two games were decided by Singleton cards. The Singleton Baneslayer versus the Singleton Frost Titan.
Yeah, that is actually kind of funny now that you mentioned it. The two Singletons took it down. I wonder if maybe that one Avenger of Zendikar in John Winters' deck is going to be crucial this game. He's got more trumping one-ofs to show off. Although I guess Korey has one Jace Beleren, but I doubt he brought it in for this matchup. So it looks like John is shuffling up diligently. Make sure he wants to have those Lotus Cobras evenly dispersed in his deck so he doesn't have any trouble finding one. And, man, some tight Magic being played here going into Game 3. It's going to be close. The matchup seems, everyone likes to say the rug is the favorite, but the matchup seems pretty close to me from just what we've been seeing. Lotus Cobra obviously pushes it ahead in John Winters' favor.
Well, I mean, when you call something like, let's say, a 55 or 60% matchup in someone's favor, they're still the favorite. It's just a slim favorite. Right. And these days, when it comes to competitive Magic, we have, basically because of the hive mind of Magic that exists out there, such refined deck lists, just in general, you can expect that players that are coming to an event are going to have a deck list that's really good. You know, it's not just the fact that Star City Games is publishing lists, that other websites are publishing lists, that WizardsOfTheCoast.com are publishing lists. It's also that Magic Online is creating really crafted lists, so that when you have such, you know, highly honed machines fighting against each other, often the edges are very small.
Yep, I agree. I mean, the players both play this matchup a ton, I'm sure, and they know how it goes down. And here we go. The players taking their opening hands. Let's see what we have. Korey looking over a 7, thinking about it. For those of you just joining us, I'm Gavin Verhey here in the booth with Adrian Sullivan and at the Star City Games Open Series here in Atlanta, Georgia. And we're about to watch the Game 3 of the semifinals. The winner is going to advance to the finals to play Edgar Flores with Blue-White Cobblade. But both these players are vying for that slot. Korey playing Blue-White Cobblade of his own with the main deck Sun Titan, main deck Baneslayer Angel. John Winters, on the other hand, the one non-Cobblade player in the top 4 playing Rug. And he's managed to take down one game. He's had Lotus Cobra on turn 2 all 3 games, or all 2 games so far. We'll see if he has it here in the third game also. We've seen it be crucial. Second game was really strong. In the first game, despite losing, it was still really strong. He put a sword on Baneslayer Angel on Korey's side, which is able to shut down John Winters' quick Inferno Titan. And looks like John is taking a mulligan here. Yeah. So it's certainly not what he wants. Granted, he's on the draw, so we'll have a card to make up for it. But, I mean, do you think he's aggressively mulliganing into Lotus Cobra?
You know, that's such a risky play. One of the things, he does have a lot of mana. So that makes the aggressive mulligan for the Lotus Cobra less risky. But this matchup is not merely about Lotus Cobra. You know, like, this matchup is about, in a way, a card advantage war. The Lotus Cobra, what it does, it leverages that extra mana into being able to put some sort of scary threat into play so that McDuffie can't do the card advantage plays he wants to do for fear of some really powerful thing coming out. So I don't know that I would aggressively mulligan for that Lotus Cobra just because of the risks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's risky. I think it could be something to keep in mind. If you look at your opening hand, it's like, it's not that good of a hand anyway, and then there's no Cobra. Like, you're like, well, I'll ship this because I have the chance on 6 of having a much stronger hand with Cobra in it. Yeah. But I don't think it's the deciding factor.
Right. I mean, absolutely, it's worth mulliganing hands that are not exciting. If you've got a hand and it's got a Mana Leak and a Lightning Bolt and a couple of land, like, say, 3 land, and then Inferno Titan, something like that, right? I wouldn't mind mulliganing that away at all. You're going to be very slow. You're not going to get much action until late in the game. You're on the draw, and your Mana Leak is going to miss that first Stoneforge Mystic. So I wouldn't mind mulliganing that for something with some more action. But aggressively mulliganing for a Lotus Cobra seems a little bit too much.
What about mulliganing to try and find a turn 2 Explore or Cobra? Because it seems
seems more reasonable.
Yeah, it seems like that second turn ramp spell is so crucial.
That seems much more reasonable to me.
Yeah, and at that point, it's not really aggressively mulliganing as just mulliganing until your deck does what it wants to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
your deck has a behavior, and you want your deck to behave like itself.
Yeah, I mean, make sure you have a 2-drop accelerator seems to really push the rug deck ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I can have a hand, for example, we'll be saying Legacy later today, and if I'm playing Merfolk, and my hand is Daze, Force of Will, and some islands, it's probable I'm going to toss that back. You know, and the reason being is my hand is not what my deck does.
Right. You got to have some Merfolk in there, too. In the meantime, it looks like John picked up his 6, slipping through it, and he's content keeping it. So the way he looked, though, it seemed like it was a pretty slow keep. Did not have what he was looking for. I see a bunch of lands in John Winter's hand.
I saw some blue in there, too.
Yeah,
I see a Jace.
I think it might be a Frost Titan also. Well, preordained turn 1 from Korey McDuffie.
Mana Leak is in Jonathan Winter's hands.
Yeah, he just drew that Mana Leak. And I'm going to see a Raging Ravine here, potentially. Or no, preordained.
That shows another Mana Leak.
Yeah.
And a Copper Gorge? Copperline Gorge?
Potentially. I couldn't quite catch the other card. I think we're going to see him ship these here because I think he wants to build up. He needs some threats, and he doesn't have those. He wants to find Lotus Cobra. He doesn't have a turn 2 Accelerator. I think Deprive is the card in his hand. Yeah, Deprive and Jace. His hand is Deprive, Jace, Mana Leak, and lands.
Both of them go away, as you predicted.
Yep.
It draws him into looks like a Raging Ravine.
Yep, and there's the Ravine.
Turn 2 says go.
All right.
And he says go. I think, what does he have there? Mana Leak. Spell Pierce now.
And so John Winters actually drew the Explorer this turn, which is what he was looking for, but because Korey left mana untapped, he was hesitant to play it. He didn't want to run it right into a counterspell from Korey when he knows that mana acceleration is so important.
Right. And John can wait on this. If he waits until turn 4 and does that Explorer, it's not as exciting, but it does get the effect off of having turning it into a virtual John played first game when it comes to the mana.
And he can just hold on to it and craft the board state where it's easier to play. Korey also has Spell Pierce, and he doesn't want to run it into that. I don't know if he expected Spell Pierce to still be in his deck, though. Might be a little trick, actually, because the only cards that John Winters has as a target are Mana Leak, Bolt, Explore, Preordain. Maybe some people would expect Korey McDuffie to sideboard out some of those Spell Pierces, but Korey has one in his hand right now, regardless of how many he sideboarded out. John Winters picks up a card. Now he's got to decide, do I want to slam down that Explorer? I mean, you have to go for it at some point. Sooner or later, it has to come down. The question is, when do you do it? Do you wait for Korey to tap low? Yep, and he's just going to keep waiting. Next turn, John Winters can play his lands if he has an untapped land and have Mana Leak up if he really wants to fight over that Explorer. And also just Explore, and if it gets countered, he can also have access to Mana Leak. Let's see what Korey McDuffie chooses to do here. Which land he wants to play. I see Tectonic Edge sitting in his hand. And yep, so there's the Edge. And let's see. We know Korey's got a bunch of counter spells, and I'm sure he's content sitting on them. Once again, Korey's kind of playing the long game here. He's a control deck. John Winters, I think, has to be a more aggressive deck in this matchup. Typical who's the beatdown fair. So, in Korey's place, is perfectly content just passing with mana untapped. And yeah, so now we see John Winters go for that Explore. And we're going to see if Korey feels like throwing down that Mana Leak or not. Nope, John resolves his Explore, draws Oracle of Moldiah, and plays Raging Ravine, passes the turn. So John also has Mana Leak untapped and ready to come down. So Korey Tectonic Edges away that Raging Ravine, cutting John off of having 6 mana next turn and also just having double red in general. There's Tectonic Edge for Korey McDuffie. The second one, he can shoot down that other Raging Arena if he wants, which he chooses to do. John Winters stuck on only 3 lands now. Korey also with only 3 lands. Now, do you think John Winters has Oracle Moldiah in his hand? Do you think you just go for it here, and if Korey has the counterspell, he has it? If you don't, you just run away with the game?
You know, I think it's one of those things where you play that risk out because if it happens, you win. And if it doesn't happen, I don't think you lose.
Right. I feel that way a lot of the time. A lot of players are hesitant to go for it, but when resolving something like this means you just instantly win, if the question is you have Mana Leak or I win, if you don't have it, I'm in a really good position. But no, he opts to not play that Oracle.
I think John has been playing very, very conservatively. And, you know, like you're talking about that who's the beatdown element. I mean, the roles that exist in this game are such that John is the more aggressive of these 2 decks. If the game draws out, it's going to go more towards Korey, I think.
Right. I mean, with that double Tectonic Edge, I think that should herald to Jonathan Winters that Korey has access to lands.
Yes.
Because he wouldn't have just been willing to double edge there and knock himself off lands. I see at least 1 land more in Korey's hand. Maybe, and let's see.
I think I see 2. I think I see 2 Celestial Colonnades.
I definitely see 1 Colonnade. I think I see 2 Gideons, Stoneforge Mystic, Celestial Colonnade, and then a bunch of blue counter magic in the back. But I'm not totally sure. There could be some Colonnades there. I mean, there's definitely that 1 Colonnade. Yeah, no, those are 2 Gideons. So he only had 1 more land. But the thing about the deck is it can really play a more aggressive role where you can plop down a Sword of Feast and Famine, put it on a Stoneforge Mystic, and just start annihilating your opponent's board position. But if Korey doesn't have an untapped land, and I don't think he does, that means John Winters can probably safely cast that Oracle next turn, and without any way in Korey's deck to deal with it, save for Day of Judgment, which he doesn't have.
That play says to John Winters, I can't stop an Oracle. Do you want it? And the response that Korey can come back with is, without an untapped land, he can't lay the Gideon. Now, Winters can expect that a Gideon might hit, but is it worth letting a Gideon hit the table? The risk of a Gideon hitting the table? With his hand... What do we have still? We've got 1 Mana Leak in that hand still?
There's definitely an Inferno Titan. I don't know. I can't quite tell if John has the Mana Leak or not.
Okay, let's look at that hand again.
I think once again, you probably just want to go for it. Because if Korey has it, we know he has Gideon, but...
There's a Cobra.
Oh, there's a Cobra. Now we can play Cobra and Oracle. And if he does that, then he'll have 4 points of power just to fight off that Gideon. I don't know. I like playing Oracle here, yeah. But we'll see what he chooses to do. Yep, I think that's what he's going for. He cracks another land. Plus, like, he just wants to build up. He's got Inferno Titan in his hand, so even if Korey drops a Gideon, if John builds up on with his mana using Lotus Cobra and Oracle Moldiah, he could drop Gideon next, or drop Inferno Titan next turn, and start serving with that, chop away that Gideon, chop away at Korey's life total, and eventually chop away at Korey himself as Inferno Titan comes in for quite a bit of damage every turn. Let's see what happens. So here comes Oracle, and I'm sure he's really looking for a land here. If it's a fetch land, he could even keep Deprive mana untapped, which is pretty insane. Yep, and here comes the Oracle. Oh no, he goes for Jace.
Wow.
Okay.
I mean, the Oracle can't be hit by the Spell Pierce, which I think is a really big deal.
I mean, I feel like with only 1 mana untapped, you don't... With only 1 mana untapped, you just want to run in that Oracle. You know it can't be dealt with. You know it's going to probably give you an advantage, or at least dig you closer to getting your lands untapped. But now Korey McDuffie can represent Mana Leak mana. Interesting. He must have really thought that Korey sideboarded out his Spell Pierces. I think that's the reason why you would make that play. But Korey kept the Spell Pierces in, and he caught a Jace with it. So now John Winters has to decide, do I want to drop this Oracle Moldiah, or am I afraid Korey's got counter magic now? John Winters has to have some action or he's going to lose. I think maybe you still have to go for the Oracle here and just hope that Korey McDuffie doesn't have it. Once again, playing very conservatively, he just passes back, keeping up deprived mana. Korey gripping Jace, Gideon, Spell Pierce, Mana Leak. He has quite a few answers here, and he's slowly wrenching control of this game away from John Winters. John Winters playing very conservatively.
And he goes for the Jace. It's going to be the Deprive. A very valuable counterspell for John Winters. He does not have very many cards that are going to be able to stop Korey McDuffie's plays anymore.
He's really, if he draws a fetch land there, he can cast Inferno Titan, but he doesn't. He does have Tumble Magnet.
Land comes into play tapped, giving him a mana if he wants it, and then he can cast the Oracle of Moldiah.
I mean, now I think you have to put that Oracle down. You finally have another opening. But he's still thinking about it. Alright, sure, serves the Cobra. And
gives him the Oracle.
There's the Oracle.
Oh, late to the party, but still giving him some value. Makes probably names a color, maybe blue in case he won't have it actually. He doesn't have a preordain in hand, so never mind that.
And yep, passes back. So now Korey's gonna be able to untap here. Maybe play Gideon if he wants to. Oh, there's a Baneslayer Angel off the top.
The card that we saw with great value in the previous games.
Right. But he's also got Flash Freeze, which he wants to maybe hold on to. Jonathan Winters is going to have access to a ton of mana next turn, despite being cut off of mana early on. Nope. And Korey just goes for the Baneslayer.
Yep, he knows the value of this card in the matchup.
Right. He knows he has to close the game. And I think we're going to see Inferno Titan make an appearance here. I'm sure he's worried about Day of Judgment on Korey's side, but once again, just like in the first game, I think you have to go for it.
Now, probably what I would end up doing here is just put those lands into play, make the Inferno Titan, and leave up the mana to make it look as though you have Counterspell available.
Yep, I agree. I think you lay the lands for sure. All right, John Winters. It's time to be a man.
Now, the situation that he's in with this board, if he had just realized his role earlier, he would have had the mountain that is in his hand would be in play via the Oracle. He would be a card deeper, perhaps more cards deep. And that's just if he had done things the turn before. If he had done them 2 turns before, wow, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like John Winters has played really conservatively this game, and he just has to be aggressive. Sure, he's looking at that Temple Magnet, but there's no way. Oh, he can do both of them this turn, I'm pretty sure. So he should have 2 mana. Yeah, okay. All right, he can do both of them. When you put that Temple Magnet into play for a second, I was like, "You're going for the Temple Magnet, seriously?" But he can do both. Yeah, he can safely drop both of them. That Magnet will stave off Baneslayer Angel, and that Inferno Titan will chop Korey's life. So I think if you're Korey, I don't know what you're going to draw here, but you probably have to go for Gideon, and then go +2, force Inferno Titan to attack, and then next turn play Gideon and go -2, killing the Inferno Titan. And you'll have to spend 2 Gideons to deal with that Titan. But that Temple Magnet will slowly run out of counters, and your Baneslayer will be able to take control of the game. So let's see what happens. I think that's Korey's line of play. I mean, John doesn't have any more cards. Keeping up Flash Freeze isn't worth it. And you're just gonna get pummeled by that Inferno Titan. So go to your attack step. First thing you do, get your Baneslayer Angel tapped by Temple Magnet. You want John to use up his options first, and then you're gonna cast Gideon. Yep. So he goes to his attack step. Baneslayer Angel gets tapped by Temple Magnet, and now you go Gideon +2, force everything to attack. Play Sea Crow Coast, pass the turn. There's Gideon.
That other Gideon in hand, I mean, you're basically just throwing them away to try to get rid of the Tumble Magnet, but building up your mana in the meanwhile, because Jonathan Winters has no cards in hand, and that Lotus Cobra in hand is not particularly exciting.
Right, and so he's going to serve everything on Gideon here. It'll kill off Gideon, chop Korey down to 12 life from Inferno Titan's ability, and then on Korey's turn he'll drop the other Gideon, kill the Inferno Titan. And then Jonathan Winters' creatures will serve in, the Cobra and the Oracle will serve in to kill the other Gideon. And the board will be left with Baneslayer Angel on Korey's side and Lotus Cobra, Oracle, Temple Magnet on John's side, but that Temple Magnet will soon be out of counters, and then Baneslayer Angel will be able to just take control of the game. Yep. And
what do you think of laying that Cobra there, the second Cobra?
I feel like if you get Dayed here, you're probably in rough shape anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I don't know that the Cobra does anything to change the situation. I mean, holding it back at least, it's a bad, grizzly bear at this stage in the game, but it's still a grizzly bear.
I mean, if you get Dayed, I don't think you're winning. So I think you just have to go as aggressive as possible. But
here's the thing, right? In where he's standing, it doesn't actually increase his clock. What the clock he has on the table right now, he still kills Korey in one hit.
Well, but if Korey could have Condemn or something very easily to deal with that Inferno Titan, and I think in John's head he's like, if this Inferno Titan goes away, if it gets Gideoned or Condemned or something.
Okay, I totally accept
I want to have my clock.
That's totally
here.
acceptable.
Because that 2 extra damage can quickly become 4 extra damage or 6 extra damage, and when Korey's sitting at only 12 life, it's pretty relevant. Especially, if Condemn would fight off that Inferno Titan, that would drop Korey down to 9 life from the Inferno Titan's ability. So, okay, Temple Magnet taps down that Baneslayer Angel.
Another Gideon in hand.
Yep, and that Gideon's going to have to eat that Inferno Titan. So Korey made the sequence of plays that seemed most correct to me. And now John on the taps attacks for 6, and yeah, that's very relevant here because that's 6 plus 6, which is 2 turns of damage as opposed to 3 turns of damage.
I would send all of these at the Gideon just on the off chance that the Condemn is there.
Yeah, you absolutely have to attack all 3 on Gideon. So he plays the other Temple Magnet, and yeah, you have to attack all 3 on Gideon for sure. Like, you don't want to get blown out by a Condemn, and Gideon goes away. And now there's a bunch of Temple Magnet activations on Jonathan Winters' side of the table. And so that Baneslayer Angel will keep being locked down, and it'll be locked down for just enough time for John Winters to deal 12 damage, assuming Korey McDuffie can't do much. Now, Korey does have that Celestial Colonnade on his side, which can block the attackers from John Winters. That Preordain is going to go a long way toward digging him into something new, though.
Absolutely. And the thing about this, too, right, is that those Tumble Magnets are winding down really fast. There's not much left on them. Right. Oh, there we go. Look at this. We got some mana from that Oracle. There's one land, making the mana leaks from Korey McDuffie all the less valuable.
Oh,
the Preordain can get that Inferno Titan real easily.
Yep. Yeah, we know Korey has Flash Freeze in his hand.
Now, what's exciting is that if there's another land there, he can just put that land... Well, I guess, never mind. I take back what I was about to say, because of the draw effect on Preordain.
So yeah, he's going to draw the Inferno Titan.
Inferno Titan, and now if a land underneath it comes, he can, there we go, continue to build up the mana.
Really tight game 3 here between Jonathan Winters and Korey McDuffie. And so now John Winters has to decide, am I going to play the Inferno Titan? Do I think it's right? So the question here is, if you attack with all your creatures and he activates Colonnade, then he can block a mana link afterward. But if you play the Inferno Titan first and you get Flash Freezed, Flash Freeze afterward. If you play the Inferno Titan first and you get Flash Freezed, then Colonnade can't block. Yeah. So you have to play Inferno Titan first.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a great backup there.
That is an awesome card to see sitting there off of Oracle Moldiah. And I'm sure Korey McDuffie is none too happy about that. All right, and here comes Inferno Titan, and that has to get Flash Freezed. I don't think Korey has a choice.
There's no choice.
So he mana leaks it first to force him to tap 3 mana. Ah, very nice. So he has to shuffle away that Jace because of the mana leak if he wants to to make this happen, which is a tight little play by Korey McDuffie. By mana leaking there instead of just simply flash freezing, it's going to force Jonathan Winters to crack one of his fetch lands to pay, meaning that Jace goes away. And granted, he can shuffle into something equally strong. He just lets the Inferno Titan get countered. Wow. He really wants that Jace.
That Jace is going to do a lot of work for him.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be flash freezed either. All right, Korey draws another mana leak.
A mana leak which will do nothing to that Jace. Okay, is that one
counter left
on that tumble magnet?
So these magnets are slowly winding down, and Jonathan has drawn both of his magnets. He has no more left to dig into. So when that last counter runs out, Baneslayer Angel will be active, but Jace is going to threaten to shut that angel down. So he draws Jace, flips over another Jace.
Wow.
How brutal. And here comes Jace. And if Korey flings a barrage of counter magic at it, he can't attack with, can't block Celestial Colonnade, so he has to let it resolve. And he would just concede.
Wow.
Wow, that's it. Wow, very close game.